everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another edition of our community. Welcome.
Community, or they're saying that we should name it in harmony. That's a question for another time.
Yeah, we're going to do a poll, and you all can help us out because we want to know if we want to continue that or shift the name. So that'll be fun. You let us know what you think. So obviously, I'm here with my partner.
I'm Mavi.
Mavi, I'm Alex. And we have a guest here today, Gabby.
Hi.
Ooh, Gabby, Mavi.
Gabby, Mavi, and Alex. Hi. So, we all were here having a conversation, and of course we thought, hey, let's put it on community and see what you all think. So today we really wanted to talk about, is it possible to have a long-standing relationship where the power dynamics are unbalanced? Examples being me as a black person having a white friend for a long extended period of time, or me having, any of us having a male best friend for years and years and years, and how that plays out, pros, cons, possible, not possible. I say, is it worth it or is it not worth it?
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think?
So I just think that what makes it difficult is the expectations from one and the other, right? So even in a marriage, right? Like, so I often bring this up to my husband that, like, we can't just expect the same thing for both of us because we like different things. We're different people. We're good at different things.
Right.
Like he's good at dishes. I'm good at floors, whatever, even in chores. But not even that. It's just like, in the context of the world, I walk around like a woman, and I have to worry about things that he doesn't have to worry about, right? So like, I ask him all the time, like, think about the fact that you go out into a dark parking lot at night, and you don't have to worry about carrying a taser that you bought me. Like, you don't have to worry about, being attacked or, you don't walk around the world with the concerns and weight of the world that I carry for being just a woman, right? So your privilege and my privilege are different. So you can't enter in a relationship with me or be in a relationship with me without acknowledging the fact that when we have a conversation, that weighs into our arguments, our life together, the way we raise our children. But that goes for friendships, that goes for anything, right?
Yeah, it's a struggle. What about you, Gabby? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that like when you have a friend, for example, in my experience, I notice it more in terms of like men and women. So, because in a lot of my friends are men, and so I think at first we would just walk around kind of at night, and I would be, a little bit on guard, and they would just kind of be chilling. And the first time that I explained that kind of dynamic to them and why I became that way in that situation, they were kind of in shock, And so I think from there on, they were very like aware. Oh, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Like, how can we try to figure out how they can make me more comfortable in any way? So from then on, I always got walked home, which is unfortunate that that's like a thing that has to happen. But it helps the relationship, I think, when the other person that does have the kind of like privilege understands how they can help, or how they can, like you were saying, like understand how I weigh in and how I feel in a situation.
Right. No,
but what about?
Alex,
can you tell us like about the damage?
So
harm?
What I would say is that in that particular instance, there is that attempt where the person of privilege is recognizing the effects on you. I think what tends to be missing is them recognizing their own privilege, right? So recognizing that you're in harm's way and stuff like that is great. But there are probably other times, and I don't know, I can't speak for you, but I know in my relationships there are times where the people that are in those positions of privilege do oppress me without realizing it. So they have a level of understanding of what I go throughout the world, but it's same as like us saying, oh yeah, I can imagine that person thinks negative things, but not really internalizing that for you, right?
Right.
So they'll say, yeah, no, I love you, and you're my friend, and I'm not going to treat you like whatever. Okay, but maybe assuming certain things you are. I'm going to give an example. This isn't a friendship, but this was a supervisor I had a long time ago where we did have a good professional relationship up until that point. And I think she made some comment in a meeting one time, I think, as the voodoo came up, and my family's of Haitian origin, and she essentially was like, oh, you should know about that, Alex. And I was like,
Your face.
And I went, why do I need to know about that? And she was like, well, I mean, and it was this big awkward thing in the meeting. And from that point on, our relationship changed. So that's why I say, is it worth it sometimes? Because after a while, man, it's just like, what do we talk about? Those mosquito bites. It's just like little by little. Oh, okay. Ow, ow, ow. Again. And it just keeps repeating itself over and over and building. And to me, it's a challenge of like, okay, I think I told you this the other day, not responding to it for me for a long time was a matter of survival, because I shrink away, and the quickest way I can shrink away is to like, yeah, brush off what you just said, and then find my way to distance myself from you.
Right.
Instead of disrupting in that moment. Like the way I disrupted with her, I'm happy I did it that way, to call her out on what she was saying in the moment, that it was ridiculous. But when you have closer friendships, that gets harder and harder to do. And so for me, it's still a challenge of like, yeah, I have great male friends in my life who, in many ways, I can't even think if I've actually ever felt oppressed by them in ways that I noticed. But I think, and I'm going to say this, because they're black, it was different. If I have a white male friend, the oppression's gonna be very intense. But when it's a black male friend, and mine come from very different backgrounds, and honestly, the level of toxic masculinity within them has always been a lot lower than what we typically have. Back then, I didn't even have that word to give it, right? So now I'm thinking about them and I'm realizing, yeah, they actually, are very on low levels, but it's not impossible. And there have been times that I can think now I could have called out some oppressive things that they said to me that did affect me and stay in my mind now, actually, if I can think about it. But them being black made a difference. So it was unbalanced, but it was kind of like this. Whereas if I had a white male best friend, it'd be like, I think this. Right?
And I think when you enter into friendships, you kind of let your guard down, and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and you don't expect your friends to disappoint you or to break your heart, right? You go into thinking that. These are both my friends, like personally in my life, so like I can say that about them too. Like I'm completely vulnerable, and I've shared things with you both that are super deep. And if you were to share it outside of our circle, for example, like that can damage my reputation, that can cause me harm, so many things can come from that. But we're all women of color, right? What about when, if one of you was a white woman and you shared something about me, the power dynamics of that, like the backlash is going to always happen to the person of color, right? And then that's gonna give you systemic and structural power, and you're weaponizing our friendship and the things you've learned or known about me to then oppress me. That can happen. Whereas here, it's just, you screwed me over, you ruined my reputation, you hurt me, but is it really gonna shift anything in systemic, or, is it really oppression? Not really. I mean, yes, maybe Gabby and I with Alex, because we're light-skinned Latinas.
Yes, because that will come up.
Right. Yeah. But let's say you and I, Gabby, like, if you do something like that, it's just personal, and it's just like, it's a friendship. But the dynamic then here changes, because I have to think of the fact that I am light-skinned, and if any harm that I may do to Alex is not just a personal harm, it creates systemic oppression and triggers your racial trauma, right? Am I saying that? Am I wrong in thinking that?
I don't think so, because I feel like there's many times where I will feel put upon or feel exhausted, because I think what people resonate with, if you don't resonate with like feeling oppressed in a relationship that's unbalanced in the power dynamics wise, you may feel that exhaustion feeling. So it's kind of like, this takes a lot of work. Why is this relationship so much work? Because there's all this, like, either unpacking with the person or unpacking for yourself. And so there's a safety issue there for me. And even when there's the disbalance, I will say the efforts on someone who has the more privilege to not only understand my perspective, but allow me space, is a way to help ensure longevity. It's not going to guarantee, but it's going to help ensure that. So if you are in a position of privilege in a friendship or relationship, it is very important for you to understand what that other person is going through, not just from outside of the world, because it's easy to see that, but even from you yourself, from things that you're not even aware of, right? You don't know what you don't know.
No, and I think that you with your friends, it sounds like you have that ability to check them and be like,
Yeah.
hey.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine you being like, what?
Yeah. Oh no, without hesitation. You know,
Yeah.
and things have come up in that way too, where a lot of the friends that I made when I was in college were white, you know, and and even a couple of them were like Jewish, and so it was understanding the different kinds of oppression and like on totally different levels, you know. So, but there were a lot of times where things would get assumed. Oh, you're from Miami, so this. Oh, you're, you know, Latin, so you must be Hispanic. And it's like, well, no,
not really.
Right. Yeah, but I'll, you know, and for me as a like Brazilian, that's one of the things that has always bothered me, and to this day I'm like, why isn't there like this option? You know what I mean? But
we're trying to change that. That's why we're moving away from Hispanic and calling us Latines or Latinx or Latinos, which is more encompassing. It's still not perfect.
Right. It's great when it's just that question, but when it gets followed by oh, are you from any list of these countries? And then the whole list doesn't include Brazil, you know, it's kind of like, okay. Well,
and then insert stereotype or whatever there after
exactly,
that. Yeah, on top of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Or like the question of what race are you? You know, there's like, Latin is not under, it's
race.
like white, Pacific Islander, or black. It's like, do I put white? I guess, because my skin is lighter. I don't know. But in terms of like having friends and talking about their efforts, I'm always the first to just kind of like correct them as understandably, but also like bluntly as possible. You know what I mean?
Doesn't that take work?
Oh yeah,
you feel exhausted,
absolutely,
right?
Definitely,
yeah.
Especially when it comes to like making new friends, and I think for me that's even more exhausting. Because I'm putting an effort to something that I don't know if it's working out. Whereas with a close friend, I don't mind it as much because I want to get on the similar level of understanding with them.
Right.
So
I will add too. There's a difference in your own state of mind also. So for me, just like you, I had plenty of friends, and I had plenty that we were in an unbalanced power dynamic within the relationship. But my mind was not awakened in such a way that I really was aware of what it was doing to me. So now that I'm in this phase of my life, I can stand up for myself and like do what you said in many different ways. And that might end up causing me to lose relationships now that I foresaw being very long-term relationships. So I think it has to do with the person's with privilege's ability to recognize their privilege, to be able to identify that not just the outside world, but that they also can be very oppressive in that relationship, and your state of mind. I think those are all very important key things to pay attention to ensure, is this going to be a long-term relationship till we're in our ripe old age.
And when you say state of mind, you mean like where you are at with even the knowledge of your
own toxicity, toxic masculinity, your own
but also the oppressed person, like where they're at with their journey and their own oppression. Because for so long, I think that as oppressed people, when we're young, right, we don't really know what's happening to us. We just feel these moments that are uncomfortable, but we can't. That's what you can't
name it. You can't claim it. You can't any of it. Right. Yeah. And so if you are at that phase now, you can understand it, and then that's going to shift your dynamics in any relationship. I think.
And your tolerance too.
And your tolerance.
Which is why older people tend to have less friends, I think. Like when you're young,
as
you just
want
to have all the friends all the time, and then as you get older, you understand the beauty and need of like the safety that comes with boundaries.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. The stronger your boundaries get, it's because you're looking for that safe haven of like, I don't have to be on all the time.
Right.
And when you have friends with a different power dynamic, I feel like you have to be on. Or you have to be prepared for that moment where they're going to come out with some asinine thing that
you're
going to
go, ouch. Okay, here we go.
What do you mean by that?
Right? I think me, and I know I'm very expressive, as you all probably know, my face is always like, what? And yeah, I've noticed as I get older, I do that a lot more now. Like, wait, what? And so I guess this is why I'm gonna throw this out there, because that is a lot of work. I don't know if is it even worth it? to have a relationship
I don't know, Gabby, is it
with
worth it?
someone.
Well, you're younger than us, and I don't mean to but I think it's an important. No, I'm saying it because we need the perspective of younger people in this, right?
Yes.
So I want to hear
In
your
that
perspective
way,
as being like younger.
Yeah, I think part of why, I think the biggest reason why I would have a different perspective is just because like I've had less time to experience all of these different things from all the different
like
people,
not as conditioned as we were.
Exactly, because I feel myself changing as I get older.
Wow.
And I notice how I like experience things differently, and how I kind of am less open or more open, or you know what I mean, how like that changes as I experience different things in my friendships or various kind of relationships.
Okay.
So I think that I have a more maybe like optimistic kind of view, just because I've been hurt less, you know what I mean, I've been damaged less in general.
Right.
But as I go on and get damaged little and little, I see how I can potentially get to that like point where I become more like expressive, and you know, just kind of like taking less, you know what I mean, from people. Right. Because now it is exhausting, but I am glad to be exhausted, and sometimes
I like that.
when it's a person that's worth it,
right?
You know, or a group of people that to me is worth it.
Oh my gosh, I agree with that so much, because as a light-skinned person of color, I have all this privilege where I have some more equity, right, to give, but it's still a limited amount of equity, right? So like privilege equities, let's call it a new term, hashtag privilege equity, like that I can spend. So who am I going to spend it on, right? Because this is my life's work. So I have to pick people and mentees, let's call them, that are also my friends. Like my friends can become my mentees and vice versa. If I do that, then who are the people that I'm going to spend it on? The ones that who are A, willing to listen, B, are not going to be defensive about it, C, are going to take it without harming me back just because they feel some kind of way about what I said, right? And are going to first sit, I say this often, sit in their discomfort, right, and get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, because my life isn't comfortable as a woman of color, as a Latina who has to see images of immigration issues, or constantly like hearing terrible things about myself on the news from leadership or from whomever, right? Like y'all don't have to deal with that. You don't know what that's like, right? So I want to spend that equity in people who I know are committed to the work, because to love me and truly be my friend, you have to be committed to the work of dismantling the systems that oppress me. If not, then we're not friends. Like straight up, to me.
So I'm hearing, if I'm hearing right,
that process it for me.
That it's not about the cause itself being worth it. It's about certain people being worth it more so than others. Okay, I can agree with that. Because instinctually, I want to be like, man, it ain't worth it. But I do know that there have been some people really close to me that have put in the work. And I think it's rewarding when you are so exhausted and you finally start hearing the rhetoric of that person changing. You start being like, whoa, even when it's little. See, I get tingles right now because like I get really proud and say, all right, not only was I a part of that, right? So it's a little vain for me to be like, yes, I helped make change, right? And but the other part of it is and people and whoever you are who's been out there making changes as a result of our friendship or anyone else's, it also made me feel like you do care about me that much. And that means everything to me, because if you hear someone else being talked about in the next room, no matter who it is, okay, she might defend anybody because she's just going to defend everybody. She defends the world.
I got to stop my saviorism. Ouch. Yeah, sorry.
She does. But, you know, there's endearing qualities, but yes, you got to stop it.
I got to check that.
But if I hear it's somebody I love, I don't care who it is. I'm be like, excuse me, who are you talking about this person? Because of you, because I know this person, even if I know this person within this group, I'm going to say no, because this person I love, so you can't collectively say all of these people are like this, right? And so if you're making changes because of something I said in the exhaustive work we're doing in this relationship, it is not just telling me that you're open, but it's telling me that you are open because you love me. And that's the key to a longevity relationship. But at the end of the day, we say care and love and want to degrees. It's love at the end of the day. True. It's all love. It's varying degrees of love, right?
So to end this, we think that this is an important topic because it's come up a lot that like our friendship seems to be very intertwined with the work because it is so rare to see two such different women with such different backgrounds and different levels of privilege and power be able to make it work while doing something so sensitive, because the things we talk about all the time, the nature of our job is literally psychology, because we have a clinical psychologist, and it's literally language and culture and, you know, oppression dynamics. So it's very difficult to not go into things that are really difficult, and we keep coming out. People say, how do you keep coming out of that still friends? And honestly, I believe in like my ancestors, and like I'm re-indigenizing, so I'm like connecting to my indigenous roots, and I do think it has to do a lot with ancestors being kind of like guiding us once we open up to that. Call it God, call it what you want to call it, spirituality, call it you know, whatever you want to call it. I think there's something there to be said about like people being put together to do a job or have a role in the world. I think we were just put together because like somehow our ancestors knew we would work.
And somebody's got to set the bar. Someone has to set the bar.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone has to show that it's possible, right? You won't strive for something if you don't believe it's possible. And so if the one thing that we do is resonate with you all, with our relationship and the way we talk about really heavy, tough, difficult discussions, and how we've moved our relationship from being an unbalanced power dynamic to a fairly balanced. I mean, it's only because of society that we still, you know, she's still very aware of her ability to oppress me, and you as well have that, you have that ability, but instead of being like this, we're learning to really create that. And if that resonates with you, more power to it. More power to it.
We're aiming for
ancestors and all being involved. Exactly. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you got something from it, and I hope you take that with you to your relationships, and I hope it also brings you back to CommuniTea next week. Or
and we
next
have to have
time.
Gabby back too.
We have to have Gabby next time. Yeah.
You like this?
I like it.
Awesome. Good. Okay, you're always welcome. You're always
Thanks.
Always. All right.
So bye. Re-envision harmony out. I'm just kidding.